So, for the purpose of this time together, guilt, shame, and unworthiness, all the same thing. Don't worry about the subtle differences in the words. And we're going to be doing a Dr. Seuss poem, spiritual Dr. Seuss, called How the Guilt Stole Christmas. But before we go there, I just have this cute little reframe of the story of the prodigal son. Because I was born and raised in Brooklyn, I was thinking that, and I was hooked on Saturday Night Live for a while. And one of my favorite characters on Saturday Night Live was Wayne Myers playing Wayne's World. And when he saw somebody he respected, he would like bow down and say, I am not worthy. I am not worthy. I am not worthy. So my new improved version of the story of the prodigal son is my ego is going to God and saying, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And God, who created Brooklyn, is saying, forget about it. Forget about it. Just forget about it. And it's when I'm ready and willing to forget about it that everything changes. So here's a poem. It's going to support you in seeing the unworthiness, but it's going to be so lighthearted and playful that it's not going to be painful. So here we are. How the Guilt Stole Christmas. Here comes the spiritual Dr. Seuss. There's a teacher inside you who teaches you lessons. His favorite word should is a sign of his presence. He shoulds on you till you're so deep in depression. You do things that make your priest gasp at confession. The teacher is guilt, and he's doing his best to whip you in shape so you'll be a success. When you fear you screwed up, he whips your behind the way jockeys whip horses to quicken their time. He's the guilt that stole Christmas, your personal Grinch, and he'll take a whole mile if you give him an inch. No, if you give him an inch, well, anyway, he lives in your basement. That's where he resides. Alone in the darkness, he schemes and he hides. So let's grab a light and head down to the cellar to expose and illumine this cagey cave dweller. Because most of us do not become motivated. When guilt's on our case, we just want it sedated. So we smoke or we drink to drown out the noise, or become real great worker bees, busy worker bees, good girls and boys. Straight A's, nothing less in our quest for perfection, in the hopes our achievements give God an erection. But God always gives you a standing ovation, adoring you with the most pure adoration. It's guilt that thinks God could be pissed, walking on eggshells, afraid of his fist. It possibly drives you to be atheist, or at least a type A perfectionist. Now, remember in school when you got your first C and you felt like you failed somewhat miserably? It's guilt that thinks misery leads to prevention and for your own good sends you down to detention. And in that detention, guilt hopes that you'll suffer enough that you'll be more wiser and tougher. It thinks it is serving some valuable service by rushing to judgment and making you nervous. But guilt's not like conscience, regret, or remorse. Those teachers teach gently, while guilt uses force. What's wrong with you, madam? And of course, shame on you, sir. Guilt thinks he's your teacher, but he's just your abuser. Let's take a deep breath. Now, guilt can arise from so many sources. Let's name just a few as a matter of courses. There's guilt from religion, original sin, humanity's birth defect, pass me some gin. There's sexual guilt when you've just done the naughty, and sometimes there's guilt when you just had the thoughty. There's guilt when you did something wrong and got caughty, or when you didn't do something you oughty. There's parental guilt that's installed by your folks who hope to teach you the ropes. There's guilt when you've gained weight and gotten too curvy. There's no end to the reasons we could feel unworthy. Now, if you're Catholic, guilt can be addressed in a booth once a week. Hail a cab and confess. And if you're not Catholic, you still can unload. So you pay for a shrink so your head won't explode. Because when you keep guilt in a dark, secret place, your head swells until it blows up in your
Take
face.
your vitamins.
Then they take a turn and sing. Oh, I got thrown off there. And that's why we nickname our therapists Shrink. They help us deflate all the hot air we think. And if you can't pay for a counselor to hear you, just ask a good friend to listen and cheer you. And then they take a turn and sing like a canary, and you welcome their truth just like you're their truth fairy. And then guilt takes a hike without a single Hail Mary. Now, when you got guilt, you're on your own case, and your head's like a courtroom, a humorless place. The district attorney outlines your trespasses as if he was wearing a dark pair of glasses, glasses that block out your goodness and light. He's your prosecution, and he might win this fight. Not so fast, says your diligent defense attorney, who shares all the good things you've done on your journey. Objection, objection, the DA protests and presents more proof that in truth you're a mess. And on these attorneys, they fight all night and all day and all night, both trying to be heard and trying to be right. And when they cross examine, battle, and spar, they both have no clue of the true you are. Because the you down in Trueville has no guilt to report. Your case has been settled and laughed out of court. I am sometimes referring to the book here when I forget. Because the you down in Trueville is never on trial. Underneath your adult is an innocent child whose report card, in truth, has no guilt to report. Your case has been settled and laughed out of court. There's no judge, no jury, and it's starting to dawn. Being stuck in your head is not where you belong. So you start tuning out all the static and noise and start tuning in to what brings you joy. You take off your tight, stuffy courtroom attire and put on whatever your heart does desire. Your heart, not your head, is now leading the way, which leads you back to church from your childhood days. The priest in the booth says, "My child, where have you been? It's been years, and I'm ready to hear some new sins." But nothing prepares him from what he hears next. It's more blasphemous than the scandalous sex. "Father, forgive me, for I've been pretending that something was wrong with me that needed mending. I thought there were hoops that I must jump through first before being happy and knowing my worth. And now I am finding my treasures on earth are here in this moment, this body, this church. Oh, the moments I missed and the joys I denied me to atone for some guilt that I thought had to guide me. But I'm off of the cross now and finally can say, I confess I am innocent. Goodbye and good day. I confess that I'm innocent. Goodbye and good day, sir.